I'm a product manager slash owner here at MetaMask. I guess I had dreams of rewriting the UK parliamentary constitution and taking things on chain to explain why MetaMask is different and how we're really trying to create a permissionless environment for a wallet. So now when we have 30 million monthly active users, like it should never be shared. We're experimenting with forms of tokens with our MetaMask grants now. We have a whole learning portal now where people can learn about Web3. Is we want our developers to be as invested in their snap as we are.
Hey, what's up everyone? It's George from Crypto Potato, and today me and my colleague Max are joined by Alex Jupiter. Alex is a senior product manager at MetaMask and shares some of the biggest challenges of working on the world's leading self-custody wallet, how it has changed over the years, and what to expect going forward. As you've probably heard, we also discussed MetaMask's rumored airdrop, so if you want to know more about it, make sure to listen until the end. As always, if you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel with the notification bell so you don't miss on any future episodes. Okay, so before we start with the conversation, Alex, would you care to kind of introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you were doing before you got into crypto?
Yeah, of course. So hi everyone, my name is Alex Jupiter. I'm a product manager slash owner here at MetaMask. So I guess we're going to talk a lot about my current role at MetaMask, but before this position, I was doing a lot of open source work in the blockchain ecosystem. I spent a lot of time working with a foundation called Democracy Earth, which had missions of building decentralized democratic infrastructure. I guess I had dreams of rewriting the UK parliamentary constitution and taking things on chain. That's a very long way away. Perhaps one day we'll get there. But essentially, I sort of did that. I studied a couple of masters in political science related disciplines, did a lot of work for various startups in London, from AI to cloud computing to companies in the community space. And yeah, now I find myself doing this incredible job at MetaMask.
How did you end up working with Consensus?
I mean, it was quite a standard approach, to be honest with you. During the recent hiring phase, there was job ads for product managers. I applied, went through a pretty long process. I have to admit, at MetaMask, we take an incredible long time to make sure that people fit the culture, they have the right technical background. I think I went through the process. It was sort of roughly like 6 months overall,
Wow.
with presentations and meetings and
That
on calls with sometimes like 10 other members. But yeah, and eventually arrived. Yeah.
that was for the hiring process, or that was onboarding too.
That was the hiring process. Yeah. So from sort of like first contact with the recruiter to then actually getting the position, it was a long time. And then being on the other side of it, I didn't quite know what was happening when I was going through the process myself. But being on the other side, you really realize the amount of diligence and care that's taken into actually making sure people are being hired and they fit the mission that MetaMask is on to rewrite the web, be this central force in Web3. So yeah, with a lot of responsibilities, so it's great that we take that time to get the right people on board.
Can you explain to us what does a product manager at Consensus working on MetaMask do?
Sure, yeah. So a product manager, I guess in different companies has different roles. So to be clear, like my current title is product manager, although I've done similar jobs and I've been called a product designer or a project manager or a product owner or a product lead. So, just to sort of be
Right.
we're on the same page, like this current role, depending on the company, has different titles. But essentially what this role is and what it means to me and what it is at MetaMask is you're leading a team and you're the main voice in terms of actually deciding what that team of developers and designers are going to be working on to fulfill the company's mission. And so, MetaMask's mission is to be the gateway to the decentralized web. And my specific area is based on accounts and key management. That's helping people keep their keys as safe and secure as possible, and also to improve the usability. So anything that falls into that certain area, my job is to try and scope that, define it, work with the designers to actually create prototypes, and then also then work with the developers to then get it built. Sometimes I code if it's needed. I'm not the best coder in the world. People are a lot better there than that at me in MetaMask, but sort of my job is to be that strategic voice, I guess, and to make sure that we're going in the right direction.
Is it hard explaining what MetaMask is to people who are not familiar with our industry?
Yeah, it is. I think, knowledge, you always need foundations to build upon, right? And so, first of all, people do need to understand what a blockchain is, what cryptocurrency is. They need to understand what Bitcoin is and Ethereum. And then eventually, they can actually then understand what a wallet is. From a technical standpoint, right? I guess if it's communicated in a different way, which hopefully we're going to get to, which is a MetaMask is your decentralized self-custodial identity, for example, in the future. It is your gateway to access all these different apps. It's your gateway to get an NFT, for example. Then it's a little bit more easier to explain. But if sort of people, say at a random party, for example, try and delve like a level deeper, and they're not quite sure what blockchain is or cryptocurrencies, it is a challenge to explain. And we have seen research ourselves where this sort of notion of self-custodial isn't quite understood amongst the general population. We've seen gaps in the knowledge there. We've recently launched MetaMask Learn to try and sort of educate people in the ecosystem about this and try to explain why MetaMask is different. But there was a challenge there. It's just going to get easier though throughout time.
It's interesting, actually. Just how you kind of like develop or maybe change over time how you describe it. I wonder, if you go back to, when you first joined, how were you describing MetaMask then, and like, what were kind of the phases of development, at least in the way that you would tell people at a party? Maybe that's an interesting way to see how a company changes over time.
Interesting. I mean, so to be clear, I've been a user of MetaMask since sort of 2016. So when I got this job working at MetaMask, I was very much aware of the product. I love the product, and when I was looking for my next position to work in a company where I use that product on a very regular basis, like a dream come true, right? As a product manager, you don't want to be working on something that you're completely disassociated with, right? And I always understood MetaMask to a deep level. I guess though, now being the other side, I do describe it in a similar way. I just understand more in terms of where the product is going, right? And I really understand the responsibility MetaMask has in the ecosystem, and how, we're really trying to create a permissionless environment for a wallet. And, the power product managers have in terms of sometimes being a gatekeeper in terms of, should we integrate this product over this product, for example, like you realize that, which is why, which potentially we'll talk about in a second, but creating this permissionless architecture for MetaMask where anyone can extend MetaMask in all manner of exciting directions is really exciting for us.
You mentioned responsibility, which brings me to one of my main points. You guys are the biggest self-custody wallet provider, and I don't think it's even close. And what pressure does this put some sort of pressure on you when you're developing new stuff? And does it sort of, how do you guys innovate knowing that whatever you do is going to be scrutinized by pretty much everyone in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, the principles that govern how we work at MetaMask, which has been set by Dan Finlay and Aaron, like since they started this project, have maintained consistent. Like Dan is one of the most highly principled people I've ever worked with. I'm pretty sure he was making the same principled decisions when MetaMask had one user in comparison to now when we have 30 million monthly active users. Like, I don't think that's changed. And having those core tenants just helps us on a day-to-day basis in regards to said like being permissionless and trying as much as possible in the areas of privacy and security. And so we try and stick to those. But of course, with scale, it means that all of our decisions are looked at a lot. For example, our code is all open source on GitHub. The amount of developers that come into GitHub and file an issue, I'll reply to it. I then get 10, 20 replies on a GitHub issue, for example, like questioning a certain decision. And once people find your Twitter handle, for example, you'll get people tweeting there. Like there's just like a lot more noise. I think though, as I said though, our role as a product manager though is to create the best product out there. We try and take different opinions on board, but of course we try and make the best decision internally. But then it's great to have that, I guess, town hall of deliberation around all those decisions that we make, which just strengthens our processes there. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned that you first started using MetaMask around 2016.
Yeah.
I remember I started using it right when the DeFi craze was starting to heat up. I think it was the beginning of 2020 or towards the end of 2019. And the whole industry has changed so much, like comparing it to what it was only, and it's not that long of a period when you think about it. It's like 2.5 years and so much has changed. How do you compare the MetaMask in 2016 when you were using it for the first time to the MetaMask today?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's come a long way, right? And you can see the decisions that have been made over time, especially when you're inside, and like quick decisions that were made at the time, and we're now having to deal with some degree of tech debt, right? Things just mount up. But back in sort of 2016, sort of 2017, I mainly started to use MetaMask in terms of, I guess, trying to look at that product and to try and understand where blockchain could go into the future, right? I think MetaMask is like a core consumer facing product in this space. And I wouldn't necessarily say I realized how important it would be back in sort of 2016, 2017, but it was something that I could get hold of and understand what it means to keep control of your keys and then interact with various dApps. And as I said, I got into this from a sort of a political point of view to see what it could mean to rewrite society. And it was very basic though back then, MetaMask, and as I said, just potential like a signpost to the future. Nowadays, it's a lot more complex. We do a lot more things, and yeah, where it's going to go into the future is really exciting with how various developers can build on top of MetaMask with MetaMask snaps.
How do you like the word wallet? Like, if you
that's interesting.
Choose another word. Because I'm listening to you and I'm kind of thinking the same thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, the way things are going, especially since like the DeFi summer and kind of as there's been all of these like new possibilities that have opened up, we're still using like the word wallet, where I'm just like picturing like everyone getting really excited about like physical wallets again. Like, wow, it's like leather. There's so much leather technology that's happened in the last 5 years, and you being on the outside and being like, it's just a wallet. But is there some limitations actually on the other hand too, like because it's a wallet, maybe there are you're confined in some ways, but it being more than like what we think of as a wallet, maybe you just have a better word. You said a gateway, but like MetaMask is the gateways that make the wallet a key, or how would you kind of describe it?
Yeah, I think the term wallet is pretty apt. I mean, when we look at physical wallets, they are representations of your authority and your identity, right? It's where you keep your driver's license, your bank cards. We then transition to Web 2, and you have your wallet on your iPhone, which is digital representations of that. Of course, those do rely on centralized intermediaries. And then in the Web 3 space, MetaMask is your wallet. However, you are the one that is in complete control of that identity. You have to keep control of your private keys and use those private keys to sign transactions across the Web3 ecosystem, and you're using your identity in those senses. So I think the wallet, in forms like skeuomorphic design, for example, like help to create those associations with people as they're getting into the industry. It's like, oh, I have a leather wallet. Okay, this is now
Mhm.
a wallet I use with the decentralized web and this thing called a blockchain. I think it helps. But of course, as you said, Max, like it does have limitations because it's an analogy, right? You can only take the analogy so far. We have a browser, for example, in the MetaMask app, right? That isn't something you'd normally associate with a wallet.
Mhm.
And the ability to play a game with a wallet, I guess, makes it seem pretty confusing to people. But I think we just come back to the fact that it's a way for you to keep control of your digital identity and for you to have that digital authority. I think the analogy is there, but I think as these products develop, I guess the wallet is the main consumer product right now in Web3. Who knows where it will be in 10 years, for example. We may feel like we need to update that term somewhat to something new, and I'm not sure what that word's going to be. I guess we'll figure that all out together. Yeah.
And when it comes to self-custody, though, there is something to it, right? It sounds so good in theory, but then
Mm,
in practice, it's also so hard. There is an obvious trade-off. And you said the analogy with the physical leather wallet is where you keep your driver's license, your ID. But you know that if you lose your wallet, someone is going to reissue your ID and your driver's license
mm,
or whatever. Or if you lose your bank card, your bank is just going to freeze it. But if you lose your MetaMask wallet, or it doesn't have to be MetaMask, whatever self-custody wallet is, you're pretty much done with you lose everything that's stored on it. So can you talk a little bit more about this and what's your point? What's your view on this?
Of course, this is a great point, actually. So, going back to how MetaMask has evolved over time, it started out as a simple private key manager. So everyone's listening is aware, like MetaMask, in its essence, stores a private key. This is a cryptographic string of letters and numbers, and that's used with your public key to sign transactions. And that's the basics of an activity that you do on the blockchain: sign transactions to buy an NFT, to send assets to someone else. Um, of course, what we're talking about though is if you lose access to that private key, you can't ring up Vitalik, for example, founder of Ethereum, to
Right.
sort of get that back. It's lost. And so, there's a phrase in crypto which is, not your keys, not your coins, because we're trying to, one of the main, tenets of this ecosystem is try and get rid of centralized intermediaries. That means that if you were to trust your private key with someone called Sam Bankman-Friedman, for example, he could just run away with it. He could do what he wanted. He could buy crypto. And one day you realize that all this money that you trusted with someone is no longer there. With MetaMask, it's completely different. You are in control of that private key, and all MetaMask is a very, very light, almost client that just allows you to access the blockchain and to do different forms of that. That means, though, that you can't ring up MetaMask, you can't get in touch with MetaMask support, you can't get in touch with anyone if you've lost that. There's a huge challenge there. We do try and develop various ways to try and help our users be better in regards to keeping control of their private key. We integrate with more hardware wallets than I think any other wallet on the market. And a hardware wallet, for those who don't quite know that term, that's like a little USB stick where you can store that private key offline. Because it's offline, it makes it infinitely more difficult for a hacker to steal. It means you can transport it, and then you can sync that hardware wallet with many wallets. You could take that to a different wallet other than MetaMask, for example, to try and keep it as interoperable as possible. But this whole notion of just having this singular copy of a private key, whether it's in a hardware wallet or on a piece of paper, we definitely need to move past that as an industry. We can't expect another billion people to onboard into this ecosystem if they have to ingrain that private key with almost their identity, that they just can't lose it forever. And so, we're looking into different solutions where you can split that key across multiple devices. There's a couple of protocol upgrades that may be occurring around this umbrella of account abstraction, which could add sort of smart contract computation to your private keys. So you could use, say, email social recovery. So I could choose my mum, my best friend, and my girlfriend, for example, to all have a degree of control over my private keys. So if I lose it, I'll get in touch with them. But I think we're just at the beginning, though, of experimenting with these different types of technologies.
And so can you please explain to everyone watching what's the difference between a seed phrase and a private key? Because one of the first things you're asked to do when you open a self-custody wallet, a MetaMask wallet, you have to select 12 words. There are 12, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's your seed phrase. And then people are always, to everyone who's following crypto, everyone is saying, don't give your seed phrase to anyone, keep it to yourself, keep it offline. So what's the difference between the seed phrase and the private key?
Sure. So yeah, when anyone onboards to MetaMask, they're given 12 words. We used to call it a seed phrase. It's now being called the secret recovery phrase. We decided to put the word secret in there to try and, infuse that point that it should never be shared. Some other wallets still call it the seed phrase, mind you, and that sort of stuck around for, I guess, us who have been in the industry for a while. But new users will see this secret recovery phrase. That's a more human readable understanding, a representation of what we can call, say, a master private key. But then from that master private key, there's a word called derivate, which basically means that you can calculate many different accounts from that master private key. So there's actually sort of infinite number of accounts that you could then have. And so when you go into MetaMask, on the top right-hand corner, you'll see an account drop down, and automatically when you onboard to MetaMask, you'll see account 1. Right, that's the first account that's calculated from that master private key, which is represented as those 12 words. You can then tap add account, and then you can add account 2, and you can just keep adding as many accounts as you like. And so the reason why we have that is a lot of users find it useful to have their assets in different accounts. So for example, like you could have a public address, for example, that you're always using, that you put on your Discord and on your Twitter, but then maybe account 2 you'll use for more private transactions, for example. And each one of those accounts, it gets a little bit complicated, but it's the same essence, essentially, has then its own private key attached to that account. So you could decide to export account 3 into another wallet, for example, or potentially you just want to save account 3, but you don't care about, all the other accounts that you've created from that original seed phrase.
So if I want to access my accounts from a different device, is my secret recovery phrase all that I need, or do I have to export the private keys for each account to access them on separate devices?
If you've just created accounts linked to that secret recovery phrase that was originally given to you with MetaMask, all you'd need to do is just have those 12 words. This is, MetaMask, we're trying to make it the best product on the market. We're trying to make the best wallet. But at the end of the day, we are still incredibly interoperable with any other wallet that comes up. You can just take those 12 words and put it into another wallet. The switching costs in that respect are low, but we're trying to make the best wallet on the market. We don't want people to go elsewhere, but this is what makes Web3 different to Web2, is in the sense that we're not locking people in. We're never gonna. It's technically impossible for us to be a gatekeeper in that manner.
What's amazing to me is that there are some very, very small steps that you guys have taken to make sure that security is on a higher level compared to some other providers. And I'm going to illustrate this with an example, because even though I'm in this industry for half a decade or more, I've also lost my secret recovery phrase on one occasion. I won't name which wallet was it, but the thing was that I was given the 12 words to write down. I wrote them down on a piece of paper, Mind you, my handwriting is not the best.
Mm.
So at some point I started using this wallet. I must have done probably hundreds of transactions, but then my laptop that I was using it with, something happened to it. I don't know. I had to format it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to access this wallet from another device. And I was pretty confident that I wouldn't have any issues with it because I had my recovery phrase locked in and written down. However, when I input my recovery phrase on this new device, it said that this is not the recovery phrase. I couldn't, and suddenly I was locked out of this wallet. And to this day, I have no idea how to access the funds there. And there are some funds in there. It's not a big amount, but, and what I was thinking, because then I created a new wallet, and what they lacked and you didn't is that when someone creates a recovery phrase on MetaMask, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not, you then prompt the users to input this recovery phrase once again, just to make sure, and that other wallet didn't have it. It was just like, write these down, and then your wallet is completely created, where there was no way to verify that you had written the words correctly. And and this is just a very small extra step that people can take to make sure that they have written the words in the correct order or in the correct way. Because I guess it's a matter of one letter, but there are 12 words and a lot of letters in them. So I don't know what,
Yeah, for sure. Having that power over your own identity, we are a self-custodial wallet. You're pointing here around some of the work that we do around user experience, right? And secure UX. And at the end of the day, our users can choose not to back up their secret recovery phrase. They could just go through the remember prompt that we have when someone onboards, and they could throw their piece of paper away. But we do feel as though we have a huge amount of responsibility for new users coming in here to almost handhold them through best practices. I mentioned we have a whole learning portal now where people can learn about Web3, but I'm also a firm believer that inside the product, we should be educating users as much as possible. So on a related note to this, we spoke about the warnings that there are online around never sharing your secret recovery phrase with other people. But of course, you can go into MetaMask, into settings, and then you can reveal the secret recovery phrase. From various pieces of research, we actually found that a lot of phishers, a lot of scammers were getting in touch with our users, getting them to go through that journey, pretending to be MetaMask support, and then asking for that secret recovery phrase. And so one of the projects that I was running for the past 6 months was, how do we present very contextual warnings to users just as they're about to reveal their secret recovery phrase, so they don't actually fall for said scam? And honestly, we tried all manner of different designs. We got people to type, "I will never share my secret recovery phrase." That didn't work. They still gave it to people in our user testing sessions. We plastered it with warnings and exclamation marks around the risks of scams, but in our testing, that still didn't work. And so this is a very, very difficult problem. This is design, right? This isn't talking about deep mathematical cryptographic sort of algorithms here. This is just about how do we educate people. But through working with our amazing design team, we're actually should be live sort of next week, which is basically we're getting people to answer various educational questions on the secret recovery phrase before they reveal their secret recovery phrase. So it's essentially a question that goes, if you lose your secret recovery phrase, MetaMask customer support can get it back for you. True or false? And they actually have to answer the correct question. And the other one is, if someone asks for your secret recovery phrase, should you give it to them? Yes or no, sort of thing. And just having those questions are getting people to actually think and answer. We all have this, right? We have a mission that we have on the internet, and we just click yes, we just go through it, and we just get to our goal, right? We're having to develop, I think, quite novel design mechanics to actually get our users to think more and to just do what's best for them at the end of the day.
I'm curious, with this talk about the recovery phase or seed phrase, is there any alternatives, like something maybe non-language based? Couldn't you make some kind of design that didn't rely on on words, but maybe like, motions or, like, places or something like that. Is there any like outside of the box thinking that you guys have done? Because I mean, it just popped into my head kind of as I was listening to you guys, so I don't have like any great examples, but maybe if you do.
Sure. What one of my ideas is actually we could do some origami, right? We haven't yet
Yeah,
shipped that, but
yeah.
if you see some origami in the product in the future, that'll be a dream of mine to get people to remember their seat recovery phrase. But look, the problem we're having here is that you could do motions, you could do I know directions, or you could get people to play a game, right? To remember their seat recovery phrase. But at the end of the day, the problem here still is there's a single source of failure around this private key. What we are honestly thinking about is how do we go beyond this, right? How do we give our users as much control over their self-custodial wallet, but just improve the user experience? The thing is that this is a really, really difficult problem to solve. We don't have the answers yet, although we're working hard on it. But part of our initiative is to open up the wallet so developers can extend the wallet in any ways they want. Because there's developers all the way around the world that think we can solve account and key management, which we're talking about, with new types of cryptography, from multi-party compute to Shamir secret sharing, to new types of hardware wallets and new types of smart contracts. Now, all of those terms sound very technological and probably don't make a lot of sense to potentially the average listener. But the fact is that there's hundreds of thousands of developers around the world that have ideas in this space. We can't integrate all of those products. We also don't know which one to bet on right now. We're trying to create an ecosystem around that, which is why our MetaMask Snap APIs, which we launched last year, are allowing developers to take any idea they have and use the same core wallet experience that we have with MetaMask and to add their own account and key management solution onto that. And so we can expect sort of over the next year to have loads of different ideas in the space. If we do talk in a year's time, we can still talk about the same problems, but we can talk about all of these other pieces of functionality that have been added through MetaMask Snaps, which are allowing our users to have that same control over their identity, but have just a much improved user experience on top of it.
Almost more power, like, if they have, the ability to say, I'm willing to give some of this up, I'll trust, my wallet security with 5 other people, that's still, personal choice, right? So
exactly. And this is, there's been a lot of white papers on this in the ecosystem. A couple of sort of wallets in the space have also pioneered this social recovery approach. And, Vitalik's written some blog posts on this, which at the end of the day, blockchain is a lot about is our personal trust with people, right? And, for sure, I'm going to trust my parents with part of my identity, for example, and I may trust a very close friend as well. I mean, there's various theories on this that these people should never know each other. So I think there's some flaws in this pure social recovery system. Me personally, I want as much control over this as possible. My close friends and potentially people aren't the most tech savvy people in the world. So, I want to, put things in a hardware wallet and have a lot of control over this. But at the moment, there isn't that, specifically with the type of wallet MetaMask is, there isn't that functionality, but we want to start introducing social recovery and other forms of account and key management to our users over time.
Alex, could you perhaps explain what social recovery actually means for people who might not be aware of it?
For sure. So let's say we spoke earlier about the secret recovery phrase, the 12 words that you have with MetaMask that controls all of your accounts. Let's say that instead of having a single source of failure, what I actually wanted to do is I wanted to split that, say, into 3 different shards. Let's call them, right? I'm going to keep one to myself. However, I'm going to then delegate those other 2 to 2 close friends, right? And I will then say, if I've ever lost my portion of my secret recovery phrase or my private key, I'll then get in touch with those friends to reissue part of that so that I can recover my account. So that's a very basic form of social recovery. it can get more complicated when you get your friends involved in signing different transactions. But the basis of this is you're, um, you know, making this easier to manage by having those already associated social connections that you have. They trust you, and then you can also get them involved in securing your account.
And I assume there are a different set of rules that you can set, right? So for example, if you lose your shard, one of the three parts, then only a combination of the remaining two can access your account instead of just one, right? So this doesn't mean that one of your friends can access your accounts on his own without your permission. He needs the other part.
Exactly, and different forms of smart contracts or different forms of cryptography allow you to set different rules on this. So I just mentioned sharding into three. You could shard it into nine, for example, and then you could say have a threshold associated with that. So five of those nine shards need to come together to form any sort of action
Sounds
on
like
your
a
account.
government. It sounds like governance now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like this, this is the thing. Like it relates very well into decentralized autonomous organizations such as DAOs and various forms of democracy. But this is just for your own individual account. But it could be the same primitives are used at scale for big organizations, or could be. Yeah.
And we saw the failure of centralized solutions in 2022. If we saw one thing, that was it for sure. Did you see some sort of an influx from people who suffered from this type of behavior? The failures of a lot of centralized companies I'm talking about. So did you see sort of a hunger for decentralized solutions after that?
So of course, we're referring to what happened with FTX, and people realized, right, that if you're just trusting a centralized company or authority with your assets, with your funds, with your private keys, if that centralized organization fails, you also fail by association because you
Right.
delegated that trust. MetaMask presents a complete polar opposite to that model, right? Even if consensus was to go out of business, which we're not going to, MetaMask is an open source product. You can get the code and you can still use it, right? There is nothing in that way that you would be affected by using MetaMask. And so yeah, we saw an interest in MetaMask as a result of the failure of, I guess, what we'd call the existing system, because it does present an alternative, a more secure alternative that people are now looking to actually manage their resources with.
And what's the relationship? Yeah, I'm sorry, Max, go ahead.
I'm just curious if that's been sustained, over some time. And maybe I'll push back a little bit too, just on this point that, there have been failures of centralized entities, especially within the crypto industry, throughout its entire history, right? So, really from the start, we had Mt. Gox as the I think it's still the largest theft in human history, and of course it was Bitcoin, and I think it every time something like that happens, I think there's people who are either pushed away from crypto and said oh, I lost my money and that's it, or there's people who are saying, well, okay, wait, we need to go deeper into this into the security and into this into self-reliance and self-sovereignty. So I just wonder, crypto has stayed since OKX, since Mt. Gox, since everything, even after FTX, we're still here. But is the move towards decentralization, like we were talking about earlier, with DeFi, it's hard to remember actually 4 or 5 years ago, or even just right before DeFi, a time when there wasn't DeFi. It's hard to even really kind of think about now, oh yeah, everyone wasn't talking about liquidity pools and airdrops and whatnot. So I guess, yeah, just how do you see that progression happening now? Is it sustained?
Yes, it is sustained. I think this transition to DeFi and towards a decentralized web isn't going to be overnight, and there's going to be multiple failings of centralized infrastructure before everyone comes over to decentralized world. And quite honestly, like there's the decentralized world isn't ready, right, for us to run the whole world on it right now, right? It just isn't. We're working very hard. Everyone in the ecosystem is, not just people who work at MetaMask and the wider consensus company and other companies in this space. And so yeah, like we need to improve the user experience. We spoke a lot about earlier in terms of account and key management. That's just one area that we need to work on. There's also scalability problems that we need to solve. Just in September, Ethereum cut its energy costs by over 99% by switching its consensus algorithm from proof of work to proof of stake. Like, the improvements are happening, and we just need to keep working in this space to actually get it to a stage where people, I guess, aren't tempted to go to a centralized authority, which will inevitably fail in some way, shape, or form. But at the moment, there's user experience pluses. What we're talking about here, though, is if we can bring those user experience improvements, so someone new to the ecosystem feels it's just as easy to use a self-custodial wallet in regards to their existing bank, for example, then there's no difference. But we just know the technology underlying a self-custodial wallet is that much stronger, and it's based on decentralized math, essentially, which would then just be for the betterment of all.
What would the biggest challenge be to get there? What do you think? In terms of user experience, how do we get from where we are right now to there? I mean, it's a hard question, but what do you think? I don't even know how to phrase it, but what's the hardest part about getting from where we are right now to where we need to be to have this type of user experience that you just mentioned, about making it just as easy and seamless to have your self-custody wallet rather than a bank?
I mean, there's multiple challenges in this space. Of course, there needs to be protocol improvements, which is, Ethereum core developers and other people making chains. That's slightly outside of my area of expertise, but very intelligent people are working on that. And hopefully, in the next couple of years, we'll see scaling improvements, right? So we can just have as many transactions on a blockchain as we can currently with centralized servers in Web2. There's also a lot of work that needs to be done in regards to educating people in terms of when they're signing transactions, right? We see a lot of people who are sent a link, for example, to a fake website, and they don't quite realize what they're doing, and they sign a transaction, and then all their assets are gone to this malicious smart contract or this malicious actor. There's a lot of work that we all need to do in that area. We have an amazing team at MetaMask, headed by my colleague Barbara, focused on improving that user experience on transactions. So we just have a dedicated team of roughly 10 people just focused on that. And we're going to start churning out improvements there, which we've already done to cut down on the threat vectors there. But again, through MetaMask Snaps, we can partner with multiple different organizations in this space that offer different transaction insights. My area of expertise, and I actually think it's one of the most difficult problems, is exactly what we've been talking about, this account and key management area. How do we give people full control over what they do on the internet, what they do in their lives, but then also make this a very easy user experience, right? Having full control over everything is incredibly difficult. It gives you a lot of responsibility, but we need to try and develop solutions where it's just as easy as ringing up your mum, for example, if you have lost your private key, or it is just as easy as to get out an old phone from your drawer, for example, if you've lost something, or we're just doing things under the hood using potentially secure enclaves on smartphones, right? That people don't really realize they're using, but it's storing a very, very important part of their cryptographic identity in there. And all they need to do is just tap a button, for example. I think this is a really, really fascinating area, so I'm really excited to work on it. But yeah, we've got some challenges over time to overcome.
Do you see Of course, as our age, we've kind of been alive during a transition period ourselves, from going like it was always very strange to me when I saw my little sister with a cell phone at like, 8 years old or 9 years old or something.
Sure.
Or like, and I guess, eventually there's going to be these two forces, right? There's going to be the technological developments and innovations from, leaders in the industry like yourself. But then there's probably, there should be at least a kind of like Web3 native, like generation that eventually, like, I mean, at some point in the future, people will just grow up with it. And I wonder then if that crosses a threshold where it loses its fun, with AI and everyone's talking about, Google and, how they're okay, maybe their day's over. I mean, yeah, I guess it's interesting for me to think that innovation largely comes when you're maybe in this like we need to get there type mentality. But once people start growing up there,
Mm.
it loses some of its like the value. So I don't know how you feel, but
I Interesting. I mean, I guess in some ways, though, we're talking about will there be a generation, I guess, who just come up on Web3 and it completely changes their life. I mean, I think we're reaching that stage at some points with different areas of the globe. A lot of MetaMask growth does come from emerging economies. Um, I'm from the UK. I don't necessarily worry on a daily basis about my UK bank just taking away all my funds, right? Unfortunately, that isn't the case in other areas of the world. And so people do trust their Web3 wallets and having their assets secured on the blockchain more than they do with banks in certain countries. And so I wouldn't say that, certain people using their whole internet life is based in Web3 right now, but people are truly trusting elements of Web3 to huge proportions for really, really important parts of their lives. And I think that will continue over time. Potentially, if people involved more with, say, voting online in different decentralized autonomous organizations for certain hobbies, potentially future political parties. Again, that would be a segment that at least I'm excited about growing.
yeah, I think, you know, the question I asked before about, the kind of terminology of the word wallet,
Mm,
like, I don't know, the the kind of the heyday of the, oh, we're all going to the metaverse is maybe we've sobered up a little bit, and we're not all going to live in Mark Zuckerberg's
mm.
Facebook dream. But
I wouldn't want to either. So yeah.
no, yeah, of course not. But around that time, I was having a lot of discussions with people in the industry about, what Web3 means, and like what like how that would actually work. And in my mind, I think the wallet, it still is like your, essentially it's your, it's your identity, it's your finances. It's kind of like, it gets you around. But in another way, it's like it becomes your digital identity.
Hmm.
That it's not something that you own, and that it's like, I have this thing and I take it with me. But it's like when I go into like a web environment, I'm navigating via this thing. And I right now, as it's emerging, I think that's like it's the most interesting industry to be a part of. But maybe people also thought that when like the driver's license first came out, or like,
Mm.
when like the past, and like people were really excited that we're innovating. We now have like, I don't know, laminated passports. So I wonder if what's happening in Web3, and what is gonna kind of like take us to that next horizon. If you, or if your team at MetaMask, like, are you working on those kind of like maybe non-financial aspects of identity, or like you were talking before, even like governance, or kind of like a I mean, it's in some way a social connection that you have if you're sharing your wallet. It reminded me of like COVID pods, during
Mm,
lockdowns.
sure,
So
sure.
so I think there's a lot more than like, you know, crypto is all about money. I think that I think that there is more to it. But I wonder what you're looking at in the future, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you're working on, uh, going along those lines.
Sure. I mean, I guess it's difficult to escape the fact that the major use case so far for crypto has been financial,
Mhm.
with DeFi, and of course, you saw a lot of people getting involved as well, with crypto, with NFTs, for example. Um, I mean, I think that where this has come from, though, I think that's understandable. But in the future, hopefully, we will see a lot more use cases. I think though we've got to crack though a certain degrees of problems though. Like, we're talking about identity here, for example, but at the moment it's very difficult to mix, say, identity with privacy, right?
Mhm.
And so not necessarily like a project that I'm working on, but I think zero knowledge proofs are really
Mhm.
interesting in that example, right? If I can prove to someone that I have a UK passport, but they can't see my birthday and like other sort of like personal identifiable piece of information, I think that's going to be an incredibly powerful space that this industry can go into, because we're talking about this constant, I guess, clash with the existing world, and how potentially people are very excited about having a laminated driver's license, for example, right? What if there was this proof that you could prove that you had a driver's license, but you wouldn't divulge more piece of information? I think that will also get people really, really excited about. At least myself, I know I'm a geek in
Mhm.
this space, but I think that's just a crazy thought construct to get yourself around, that you could get into certain clubs online, or you could get into certain places with a proof of ownership, but you wouldn't necessarily have to divulge all information on that proof. I think would be exciting.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
really it's really interesting to me how you are jumping from one field to another. So, for example, you mentioned that we see how essential self-custody wallets are becoming in developing countries, right? And even in third world countries. And then Max started talking about what he did. My point is that it's really fascinating how we sometimes forget that there are things in our countries, especially in the Western countries, that we take for granted. And for example, access to your funds, access to your banking. And we forget that there is a huge amount of places on earth where this is not as easy, and governmental control just goes overboard, and solutions like self-custody wallets are just as essential as it is as some things that we take for granted here. So in a way, their innovation comes from necessity, right? And that necessity in different societies is just so different. So, for example, to me, it might be the next thing that I might worry about is zero knowledge proofs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to for someone to know that I have a driver's license without me having to prove that I have a driver's license. But for someone in, I don't know, let's say in Nigeria, because they recently the governmental control there is on such a high level that I think recently they limited the amount of money people can withdraw from their own
Mm.
bank accounts on
Mhm.
ATMs, and there were protests and stuff like that. And for someone there, the basic thing is to have access to his money, right? Or
Yeah.
and it's really interesting just to see this type of comparison and how innovation is driven from necessity, but that necessity is completely different all over the world.
Yeah. And look, it's a very I guess, a technological optimist view to say that some crazy decentralized network can solve all of these problems that people experience on a day-to-day life. And I think I'm very, very wary of ever claiming that, because the technology isn't there right now. But we're working on it, and yeah, there's areas of the world that I think people are turning to decentralized software to try and help with. I was traveling through Argentina over the summer. People use
Mhm.
Bitcoin and various forms of cryptocurrency because of the just huge amount of inflation in Argentina, which is sometimes like 100%, for example, year on year, if not more. That's just something I can't quite comprehend. But people see the volatility in cryptocurrency as fine when you're dealing with that. There was a case in Lebanon, for example, where people can withdraw money from their banks, like just stopped overnight, for example.
Right.
That wouldn't happen with a trustless blockchain such as Ethereum or Bitcoin. So we're starting to see fundamental use cases here, but yeah, we've got a lot of work to do though, and quite honestly, people do suffer some significant problems on a day-to-day life that what we're working on can't solve right now.
Well, it's interesting. I've been hearing this concept of like the solar punks and the lunar punks, in this kind of like breakdown, which essentially it's like the industry is, and this whole the technology, everything we're talking about does have these kind of like two sides, and there's like times when you really can think like you were mentioning before, even with like governments and trying to make change in the world, we have these like really idealistic and optimistic dreams, but then and what cryptocurrencies and Web3 technologies, wallets like MetaMask can do for us. But then on the other hand, it's like the when the everything bubble pops, or when like this disaster hits, like am I going to be ready, and kind of like a more cynical or like darker view of it. So yeah, I think there is a bit of both, and having some balance, but I definitely see those like being two bigger trends in, as cryptocurrencies become more widely adopted and kind of more known. I think there will be, a group of people or maybe companies that offer products that are very well designed. Think of like I don't know, let's just say TikTok. TikTok is, everyone loves TikTok, but you sacrifice something, and some people are just okay with that because everything's sunny and they're, it's fine, while other people are using Signal and using Telegram. So I wonder if MetaMask, you don't, your brand identity is a fox.
Right.
How does that fit between those worlds?
I mean, there's been various different interpretations of the fox. The one that I like the most is that the fox is like this medieval jester, I think was one analogy that was used, and so like dances between like, and it's not very opinionated, and it sort of like exists slightly outside the current system, right? And it is not saying what's bad or good. Like it's just it's just a nice fox, right? I think though this is why though when we're making MetaMasks though, like our core tenets around security, privacy, and usability, like we're trying to provide as much optionality and functionality to our users as possible, right? And what they choose to do in the decentralized web is completely up to them. And I think as we go in time, like wallets will become more and more important, or sort of Web3 wallets more. And I'm excited to see where MetaMask goes.
Alex, what is MetaMask Snaps? You've been talking about it. You mentioned it a few times already. Can you explain it? Like what is MetaMask Snaps?
And some of the coolest like things that have come out of it that you've seen.
Sure. So MetaMask Snaps is a way for a developer to extend the functionality of MetaMask in any way that they want. So this is going back to some of the permissionless innovation ideas that we have behind MetaMask and that underpin a lot of the Web3 ecosystem, is that we don't want to act as gatekeepers for innovation in any way, shape, or form. So we have a lot of people that come to MetaMask and they have a product, they have an idea, and they want to integrate that into the product. And because our code is all open source on GitHub, they can look at it, and sometimes they'll even spend weeks or months developing this section of code, and then they'll ask someone like myself, can I integrate that into the product? That takes us a lot of time. So we just physically don't have the ability to integrate all of these different what's called a pull request in GitHub land, like into our core product experience. We do accept some, but unfortunately, we can't accept enough just pure to how many hours there are in the day. So Snaps is in a way for developers to extend MetaMask in a permissionless environment and do anything they want, right? And so some of the exciting snaps that we've seen recently is MetaMask has historically been an Ethereum wallet, but some developers extended MetaMask to also support Bitcoin. And also extend into, say, Starknet, for example. These like big changes for MetaMask. It allows us to become a multi-chain wallet, so we're not just in the Ethereum ecosystem anymore. That means if another developer or group of developers come out tomorrow, create a new blockchain, they can just extend MetaMask to support that blockchain as well. I think we're also seeing a lot of interesting snaps in the area of transaction insights, so warning users around what they're signing, so transaction simulations, that basically like, if you do this, this will happen. Are you okay with that? Are you okay sending all of your apes to this address? Oh, you're probably not. So we're now going to plaster this in big red warnings. And then also what we've been talking today is a lot of different snaps in the area of accounts and key management. So email social recovery, different forms of multi-factor authentication, different kinds of hardware wallets. And yeah, we're just scratching the surface of that. And we're really excited to see where developers take this in the future.
Are they hobbyists, or is there like is there some kind of like profitability that they can get off of it, or it's just
so we have we have pretty established companies like exploring snaps in this area. Starkware collaborated on the Starknet snap, for example, like a very well-known company in the space. In terms of the monetization, I guess, way of looking at this is we want our developers to be as invested in their snap as we are, right? Yeah. And so we want developers to be able to make their own business models off of this, just like people make businesses off of their websites or their apps in Web2 world, right? These are only going to be successful if developers want to work on this on a daily basis. And so if developer wants to offer a subscription model or new forms of Web3 business models that we don't quite understand yet because we're learning as we go, we're fully behind this, and we see that as actually the way that this ecosystem is going to take off.
And you also talked quite a bit about account management and key management. Can you perhaps tell us if there is some set of golden rules that more newcomers can follow to make sure that their keys are safely stored?
For sure. So first of all, always keep your keys offline, so no hacker can steal it. Do not take a screenshot of your secret recovery phrase, which then be backed up to your iCloud. Do not write it on your notes inside your computer, which can be stolen. And also, as we spoke about, if you lose access to your computer, you've also lost access to your secret recovery phrase as well. So always keep it offline, and ideally also keep your secret recovery phrase in a hardware wallet as well, because then that's just a very usable place to store it. Also means that you can also see some of the transactions that you're going to be signing on the hardware wallet, which then you can also use with MetaMask or any other self-custodial wallet as well.
Max, do you have something to add?
I just, what was the metal, the really heavy metal a couple of years ago?
There was something with it, but was it titanium or?
It wasn't titanium, but it started with a T. You know what I'm talking about?
Let me
anyway, they like essentially it's the heaviest, like most densest metal, and so a bunch of crypto guys just got the idea that they'll put their private keys on that because it'll be very heavy to
I'm looking at one. I'm looking at one wallet provider. So they're selling titanium wallets.
Oh,
you can punch it comes with a puncher and like a few tables with different numbers on them, and the combinations of different numbers represent different words that you get in a booklet with the wallet. So you have to punch it. Yeah. Actually, and it's like it's earthquake and fireproof, and basically nothing can destroy it.
I've seen a lot of those. I experimented them myself. I mean, they're cool, right? I mean, I think that's what happens when you get a load of geeks in the space. Like, we're going to make the heaviest, hardest metal, and we're going to engrave our private key on it so it can never get lost. That's cool. I think if we can try and move away from that, though, like we're not going to get a billion people in doing this, and I don't know, burying it in their back garden or something. I'm not sure. I think it's good for now, but yeah, we're trying to innovate beyond that for sure.
It could become the
I,
new tungsten trend, right?
tungsten.
For sure. Tungsten, that's the metal for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Alex, I have to ask you something that if I don't, everyone will hate me. When do you guys plan to airdrop your tokens?
It's funny, yeah. People always ask this.
Yeah, I've been doing transactions in MetaMask for 2 years now, and I'm waiting for my token.
That's not gonna help.
Just sending it back and forth.
Oh, that's not gonna help. We got
well,
something.
look, I mean, I guess the point is that at MetaMask we only do things if you know if we see there's a use case. Like right now, what we're talking about, you know, there doesn't really seem to be a use case where we're experimenting with forms of tokens with our MetaMask grants now. You know, which is a way for any external developers to apply, and then essentially we have all employees in consensus using our MetaMask grant token tokens to essentially like vote on different proposals that we think should get the money. This is very different to I think what the wider ecosystem is like asking us for, but you know that has a clear utility and use case, right? To actually decide which projects get money, and so that's what we're working on. We'll see where it goes in the future. But yeah, I've got no more to say than any other consensus or MetaMask representative has to talk on a MetaMask token right now. Yeah,
I'll take it.
Okay, I have one final question then, because and to circle back to the very beginning, you said you're a product manager and owner. Does that mean product owner or owner of MetaMask? Are you a part owner of MetaMask?
I guess it's just I'm not a part owner of MetaMask. I mean, like most employees, we have shares in Consensus, the parent company of MetaMask. It's just again, just like a random tech term to describe my job, right? It's basically to say that I co-own or I have the majority ownership over my team's backlog, as in the tasks that this team is going to do, and due to various different levels in Consensus, it goes like product manager / owner, product lead, product director, or something like that. So yeah, that's just a term. It doesn't really mean much. Yeah.
But hey, you get to come on podcasts and talk about what you do. So
exactly. It's exciting stuff for sure.
Do you want to give us some social networks where our viewers can find you?
Sure. Yeah. My Twitter is AlexJupiter23. Probably the main place people can reach out to me on. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this conversation. I think it turned out pretty well, and we discussed very interesting things. Max, thank you as well.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's very, very interesting.
Awesome. Thanks, Max and George.
So there you have it, friends. Alex Jupiter. I believe this episode was full of insights, especially for those of you who might not be particularly well aware of how self-custody wallets work and what MetaMask is. Even though I have experience with using MetaMask myself and other self-custody wallets, some of the insights Alex shared reminded me to sort of step up my key management game and custody so I don't fall victim to the phishing scams that are running rampant in our industry. What about you? Are you keeping your private keys safe? Please let us know down in the comments if we missed some security tip or anything that might help users take better care of their keys. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.